All right, what's going on, guys? This is Sumner Healey from landinvestor.co, and this is actually a first. I don't think you guys have seen the other two coaches inside the LIA program. We're joined by Michael Bull and Colton Bones today. What's up, guys? How you guys doing, gentlemen?
Good, man. Yeah, how are you? I'm good.
Sweet. Happy Friday. So what we're going to be doing on an ongoing basis, we're going to be hashing out kind of a roundtable discussion, end of month, every single last Friday of the month. We're going to talk about the ups, the downs, the good, the bad, the ugly from what happened the previous month in our land investing businesses. And I hope that, if you're someone that's sitting on the sidelines, you just started getting into land investing or you've yet to get into land investing, one of the things you're going to recognize, whether you have or haven't already, is that it's a lonely path, right? And my hope is that with these videos, you can feel a sense of camaraderie, a sense of connection, and understand that we go through the same things that you're going through or will go through, depending on where you're at in your journey. So to just start it off, let's talk January. How was it for y'all? I think January kind of surprised each and every one of us. Curious to hear how it was for the both of you.
Yeah, I'll start, Colton. January was okay. It wasn't as good as probably your month was, Sumner. It was great on the acquisition side, pretty slow on the disposition side. So, but we also didn't send out. We didn't have that much in inventory, so we sent out like a bunch of mailers in December, beginning of January, kind of prepping for the month. So I didn't have that much in inventory to sell. So let's see. On the sell side, we closed 4 lots. It was about 30,000 profit between the 4. So still like a good month. But we put, let me see, I think it's about 12 into escrow. Yeah, 12 lots into escrow. The buy price about 152,000 rounded.
Solid.
So yeah, a ton of lots on the buy side. So hopefully, in the next couple months, the disposition.
So how much mail did you get out this month?
We're at like 9,000 so far for the month.
Okay, 9,000. What's the goal for this month? Do you think you're going to send out more before the first?
Well, I think anything that I get out now will probably just roll over into February anyway. So, now the goal is looking at February. It'll be 10,000 in February. So, this is the first. We're like a 45 days in, 30 days into texting. So this is kind of the first time doing both mail and texting. And it's a lot, with the.
We're gonna touch on the texting side of things. So I know you've had a good start, but also learned that there's a lot that comes with it.
Yeah. So I'm, January's done. Now moving on to February, it'll be another 10,000.
Okay, so 9,000 mailers, about 135K in acquisitions, 30K in profit, roughly for the month.
Yep.
Not bad. I think that it's funny how expectations dictate our experience in life. Like my expectation was that January was going to be here, and it was here. Right. And so it wasn't like the gangbusters crazy month, but even just that difference in what I was expecting based off of December, November, all that stuff made it feel really good. Colin, I know you've been traveling the world, getting married, or I keep on saying getting engaged. Geez.
I know.
Like that, oh, yeah. Congrats, Colton. I haven't said congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah. Super exciting, man. Super exciting. So I know you've had a lot going on. You got dumped on in snow in Tahoe or snowboarding for a few weeks. How's biz been despite all that?
It's good. I mean, definitely, a lot of distractions and spending time up with family and up in Tahoe and stuff like that. So that was nice to kind of get away, take a break for a bit. And then just been getting back in the grind of things, getting everything prepped for the year. So, you and I have been working on quite a bit, and we're pretty much at the end of that and ready to just get everything in motion. So I think on my end, a little bit the opposite of Mike, a little slow on the acquisitions. I wasn't. I actually should have been sending out more mail toward the end of December. That got pushed into more the beginning of January. So those will be rolling in now. We're actually just starting to get some calls there. And then the sales have been pretty decent. Like I was just mentioned before we started this, the just one little area that we've got a fair amount of inventory there currently, and they're not real exciting deals. Buy for 4, sell for 12 to 15. Some of them are a little bit more exciting, up in 30,000-35,000 range. But so yeah, I mean the larger lots over there can be decent, but a lot of those are just like little tiny base hits. But it's consistent over there, and they're great lots, easy sells, and so get a fair amount of those that start off the month, and then I think before the end of the month we'll still have another one or two of those that should close.
Sweet.
I think today even, or maybe early next week. So it's been pretty solid.
Yeah. Your experience is similar to mine, right? Disposition's been good. Acquisition's been like hard to determine what that is. I think, I definitely did a really good job of getting the mail out in December in anticipation, but I don't know if some of that just got lost in the noise and it almost hit too early with the new year. And so maybe that kind of dulled the response.
When did you time it out? Like what was your timing?
Yeah. So like, I would say I started getting everything sent to the mail house around like the 15th or the 16th, was telling them to hold off on it. And then everything was getting approved for mail merge, I don't know, 20th to like the 26th. And some of it left pretty quickly. And so some of it touches down relatively quick. Some of it doesn't. Mail houses in Florida. So for some of these East Coast mailers where a lot of the folks are on the East Coast, I think it gets to them a lot faster. So yeah, I don't know what happened there. We didn't do huge numbers in December for mailers. We got about 10,000 out at like the very tail end of the month. Could have been a little bit early there. But yeah, similar story. Dispositions were way better than what we expected. And acquisition has been kind of slow. So I'll go through the KPIs for us. We've sold 9 properties so far this month, $200K in total sales value. The cool thing is we've added $2,200 a month to our recurring revenue. So always love to see that grow. That's something that we're going to see continuing to uptick this year. We're just really, it's not so much that we're making a big mental shift here. It's just really what the market's doing. But I am being a little more mindful with creating really favorable terms. So I guess we're doing a little bit there to be proactive. But, if I could hit 2,200, $3K a month in new recurring revenue every month, love that. I'd like to do that for the next few decades and live off of that. Did about like 70K net, somewhere in that realm between cash sales and our owner finance portfolio. Total finance value for the ones that we did sell is about 130,000. This is where things get a little bit funky though. Only 2 properties acquired. Acquisition cost was 93K for those 2 properties. So some bigger deals. We got a pretty cool property that we're buying for 80 that I think is probably worth around 200 to 250. So kind of a cool property, but nothing standout there. We're just a little under 10K mailer so far for the month. We got more going out. Now, the reason that I think also some of our acquisitions downticked, and the reason we kind of pulled back the throttle on our mailing was that 2 weeks ago, we had the unexpected happen and our acquisition manager just got up and left. And if you guys have run a team with an acquisition manager, or you've run any business where you have a key man, like a key player in your business, and they leave, it's really, really tough. And so we had to kind of dial back our marketing to help remedy that. Now, what's the takeaway from our acquisition manager leaving? First off, I mean, we like kissed the ground she walked on. So I think she had a great experience working with us. I don't think looking back at so much what we had done. Some of her performance started to slip a little bit in Q4. I didn't know if that was market related or her related. She kept on missing work. There was like quote unquote health stuff going on with family members. I've heard that a lot when hiring overseas. So it's always hard to know how accurate that is, but I'm always lenient when it comes to that stuff. And then 2 weeks ago, she just decided to not show up to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then left on Wednesday. 1 day notice, was just immediately out. So ideally, like the takeaway from there is I don't think we did anything wrong with training or putting her in a good spot in the company and treating her really well. I think not having a backup plan though, in terms of maybe having another acquisition manager on staff, because if you're sending out tens of thousands of mailers and tens of thousands of texts a month, and you have any you have like someone leave you and you have any kind of idle time there where all these paid leads are coming in and no one's working them, it costs you a lot. Not in terms of just like hard cost of the marketing, but also just the opportunity cost. And so I think that's why we saw our acquisitions down a little bit. Now, one thing that I've been doing over the last year and a half is I always have job listings up and I'm always getting applications sent to me and I'm interviewing pretty often, a few times a month. And so luckily I had someone in the pipeline. It's my first hire from Mexico, actually, guys from Mexico City. We brought him on, just went like full guerrilla training mode. Like I had like 5 days where I'm just going a mile deep with him for hours every day during the weekends. And we finally got him ramped up. And he had a really sluggish start. He had a easy enough time comping the properties, but a terrible time talking on the phones. And I think we've done a 180. I was listening to all of his calls yesterday and he was doing phenomenal. So really, really excited by that. What's interesting, or like just kind of a cool metric to track, is looking at buyer leads. Now our buyer leads are not as strong as they were back in like Q3. We were getting like hundreds of leads a month, but our buyer leads for January were better than any month in Q4. So it's kind of an interesting sign. So yeah, a lot of craziness happening inside the land business. Despite all that, we had about 15 people joining the program this month, which that's exciting in itself. That's
very exciting.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're really shooting for this year is 200 members inside the group coaching program and 100 folks quitting their job and going full-time land investing. That's our kind of our North Star this year. So if we keep on that 15 a month cadence, we should get there. So super exciting. But yeah, a lot to unhash here. So I know, Mike, I want to cover texting with you. I want to cover your new hire. I'm going to talk about some of the acquisition manager stuff. Colton, I want to talk about what it was like running your business on the road, how you structured your days. Was it, I'm just taking work off entirely, or is it, I'm going to trickle in and do a little bit? I think I've gotten to the point in my business after 4 years now where I've never taken a real vacation and just been entirely off. And I think I'm due for one. So curious how you structured that. Mike, I'll let you take it away. So you launched texting this month.
Yes, we launched texting. Say that again, sorry.
Give us like the high level KPIs for what you've achieved so far and what it's been like with the texting.
Yeah, I think we're coming up on, I don't have these KPIs. I will at the end of the month, so in 4 more days. But I can give a kind of rough level. So we're coming up on about, this will be our first full month. So text sent, I think we're probably about 9,000. I think we're only allowed 10,000 for the month. So we're probably, going to hit that number. Deals closed. Well, actually, sorry, deals sent into escrow. I think there's about 6 of them. From the month.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty good. So good.
That's a really good conversion from
super good conversion. I don't know if all 6 would close, like maybe 4 or 5 close. So it sounds like in Sumner, you've done this longer than me, but the numbers are similar to mail. And I don't know, obviously it's not going to last, but right now we're about 1 deal per 2,000 texts. I'm assuming that won't.
1,500 texts per deal.
Is that what you're at?
Yeah. No, that's what you're at.
Oh, yeah.
9,000. 6 deals. That's crazy. I mean, it's better than mail, right? I think a couple of things you'll learn. This is what I've experienced with texting, is that it's not to say it's easy to get a contract, but it's easier to get the contract than the deal closed. I've seen a lot of these texting deals that we send a title and then something does crop up. So I wouldn't be surprised if 20% fall off.
Yeah. No, I'm expecting that.
But still, those numbers are really good. So my question is, what's the approach you're taking? And why do you chalk that up? Because I think those numbers are definitely better what we've gotten over the last few months. Now we've been targeting bigger stuff, and so that plays into it. Talk to us like what kind of properties you're targeting, what your process has been.
Yeah, so let me preface this. This definitely will slow down. And the reason for that is if you're using launch control, which I know you teach in the program and you use it as well. So like right now we get 600 texts per day. So basically all of January, what we're doing is we are sending 600 in the brand new text messages to sellers. That will start tapering off because how launch control works is like, if I send a message to somebody and they don't respond, 30 days later, I can send them a new message and I'll follow up with them. So how that's going to start looking is it's no longer 600 new texts. It'll be a blend of probably 300 new texts, 300 follow-up. Right. So that naturally, I think, will start to just slow down. I do think the follow-up is crucial and we will get some deals from there. But I think that the amount of text per deal will go up just naturally, I think, as we send the follow-up. So that's one thing. I don't know if this is how you run your Sumner, but we just send the offer almost right away. So I don't ask, my initial text might say, hey, I came across it. We just bought a lot down the street from yours in whatever county. Would you, be interested in looking to sell yours? When they say yes or give me an offer, I just throw them the same blind offer that we mailed them 6 months ago. I give them the same offer. So I don't respond to them and say, well, what do you want for it? Or what were you hoping to get for it? I just don't like playing that game really. And then that kind of leaves them up to like, well, let me just hop on Redfin and see what my neighbor sold for or whatever. Let me just give you the offer we gave you 6 months ago and either they take it or they don't. If we're close, we'll like kind of negotiate and see if we can work something out. But for the most part, it's either take it or leave it. And I'm sure you're different. I mean, you probably like to, work the leads a little bit more. I don't. It's worked out for me so far. I'm sure it'll slow down. I'm expecting that. But
it's super interesting. I definitely different than how I'm doing it. Not to say there's right or wrong. I often think about like iterating on how we do it. I think what's interesting is that like the limitations we set on ourselves, we'll kind of work around them, right? So like, you don't want to have to take a lot of calls. You don't want your team to have to take a lot of calls. So your workaround is, I will just blast out an offer. Now, there might be some drawbacks to that, but the pro of that is you can hit your volume. Like, you're probably never going to miss on maxing out your text, which we often do miss on maxing out our texts. Is my textures in conversations, and then my acquisition manager is tied up on other calls. And so that's a kind of a more streamlined approach. I think where that strategy probably falls off is if you're going after bigger and bigger properties, right?
Yeah.
I think when we'll touch on what you're going after, I think it definitely depends on what kind of properties you're going after. My approach as when I first started, it was similar to yours, but I never gave a blind offer. I gave a range offer. I still think a range is just like, I don't know, I just want to see what they take, right? Because sometimes they take lower than what the top end is, which is rare, but it does happen. And it gives us a little more room to negotiate. It gives us some more time to comp the deal too. I just find like, unless you're going after really easy to price areas, shooting out a blind offer for us can oftentimes be wrong. But I know your approach is a little bit different for the areas that you work in. But yeah, I've been thinking about kind of revisiting how we're doing it, because right now it's send a kind of open-ended text, get them to respond, try to get them on a call, give a range offer, a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
What we know about texting is the vast majority of them just aren't a good fit. So we do kind of waste a lot of time.
Yeah. So the markets we've been doing are markets that we've already worked in. So I know the offer that I'm buying at is an offer that is good for us. We can sell it for. So that's part of it. And then also, we are going after lower value probably than you are. We will go after higher, but I think the most expensive lot that we bought, we just got an accepted offer yesterday for $23,000. I think that was the most. So we've had a few at like 19, 18, 20, 23 is the most. So yeah, it's going to obviously take more if we're going after $40,000, $50,000 lots.
Yeah. So the 6 deals that you've locked up so far, how many of those have you talked to on the phone?
Zero.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, 0.
Dude, that's so interesting.
No, I apologize. Actually, it's a 1, and because we had an access issue, we've been kind of going back and forth with. So,
but it wasn't even to haggle or to talk about the finer points of selling or anything like that.
No, we were like 2 days out from closing, and he just called to ask like what's going on.
So what it's come down to is that you said the blind offer. They say yes. They say no. Next step is, do you explain the process, or you just say, I'm going to send the contract? I'm
going to send the contract.
Damn, that is crazy, man. That's so interesting.
What's business?
Yeah, I've stopped doing the whole. What I found is like when I started explaining, let's say it maybe helped like, I don't know, 30% of the people for me to explain the process. There might have been 10% that got like tripped up at how confusing it is.
Right.
So to me, that just wasn't worth it. So to me, it's easier to send it and they'll sign it. And it's easy. If they do ask in a text, like, okay, what's the next steps? Escrow will handle it or title will handle it. And just like keep it as simple as possible. I found like when I was getting on the call and like trying to like over explain this lengthy process, it was just like, I felt like it was scaring people sometimes.
Yeah, it's such a fine line. That's what we train our acquisition team on. Is like, you got to be really careful to not over explain, because you can do more harm than good.
Yeah.
I think on the flip side of that though, I do like to, I think like, they say confused mind says no kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so if they don't know exactly what happens after they sign that contract, I think they can be skeptical to sign it. A lot of these folks don't even really know much about a purchase agreement or a whole lot about real estate closing. So I do like to explain timelines. I like to explain that we're going to use a title company just so they know, and that the title company is going to handle the closing. Because what's annoying is when they think you're the title person and they're calling you up for the updates and they're like, I want to preface that you're going to talk to them. But dude, that's really interesting. When we had our acquisition manager leave, we did kind of change our strategy to be more just pushing out offers opposed to like trying to talk to them. So we'll see how that goes. But again, our results in the last 4 months have been really skewed because we're going after 300, 400, $500 million properties. So it's such a different can of worms, I think you kind of look like a doofus if you just send out a blind offer on $1 million property. It's like, who does that? That's just definitely kind of erodes any trust that might be there. That's great. So how many of those 6 have you closed on so far?
The 6 that we've closed on, I've closed on the acquisition and disposition side on one of them.
You already bought and sold one.
What was a double close? So yeah.
Okay. Wow. What are the numbers on that?
It was a terrible deal. It was the very first deal I did for texting. And it was almost just like a proof of concept for me. Like I didn't even care what I made. I just wanted to like, okay, the texting works like for me to validate for myself that I'll keep doing it. So I bought it for 16. I double closed for, I say terrible deal, but I sold it for 24. Not a deal that I would normally buy, but if I'm going to double close on it, and again, it's like a proof of concept.
For some people, that's life changing. You go make $8,000 or so. It's not a bad deal.
Yeah, and you got to pay there's an agent involved. You pay title on both sides, so it eats away at it, but it was good. Yep. And then one is supposed to be closing by the end of the month, and then the other 4 will close early February.
Okay. That one deal pays for launch control for the year.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, just so the folks that are watching, they're like, ooh, I want to try doing this. Let's talk about the tools that you're using and how you have your team organized.
Yeah. So we have somebody running our texting for us now.
Yeah.
Texting sounds great. It is a decent amount of work, right? Like just because you're reaching so many people, and like 10,000 people in a month is a lot. So it's a lot of work. So we have somebody that runs launch control for us, which is the texting platform. All of the data we go through direct skip. I know Sumner's got like a discount code you can use to get like your first 500 free skip tracing through them. We use direct skip. It's quality wise, I don't know. I've used other platforms before, but price, they're pretty cheap. So I like them. So we use launch control for the platform. Skip tracing goes through direct skip. We pay somebody to run the texting side for us. Yeah. And then all of the data is from our previous mailer. So these are all people that we've mailed before and they have an offer price already. We then just take those lists, skip trace it, and plug it.
You're just recycling that data.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And for the folks that are watching, down in the link you can click, you can join inside our Discord. Once you're inside there, you get access to all the discounted tools we use. So literally every tool minus our CRM. So one tool we haven't been able to get discounted pricing on. You guys, once you're in the Discord, you can get access to that. For direct skip, it's 500 free skips off the jump, and launch control has a discount, yada, yada, yada. Same with data tree, all that good stuff. So there's ways to kind of finagle the pricing and make it a little more lean. That's interesting that you're recycling the data. I think that's a really good point for why folks should eventually start doing texting, not off the rip, not in the beginning, but you're a year or two in, you've kind of maxed out mail, or you're doing really well with mail. You've got a system for it. You've got a team for it. At this point, you probably have 100,000 plus records that you can just start skip tracing. So
I think there definitely is a business out there to just do text only. That's not the business that we run. If I were to go back and do it again, I would do it the same way. I'd start with mail first, learn that game, and then add this as like an ancillary,
for sure.
Business. Yeah.
The problem with newer folks starting with texting is texting is a labor place. You don't have the team for it. It's a lot of work. And if you're taking it on your own, odds are if you're starting your land business, you've got a different occupation, another business, W-2. The likelihood of being able to dedicate 5 or 6 hours a day to responding to text is super low. The problem with texting, it's a blessing and a curse. You can get 20 to 30% response rate. So you send out 10,000 texts, you get 2,000 to 3,000 people responding, and only 6 of them are actually deals that you're going to do, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like you got to weed through a lot of crap to get something that's decent. The other thing is that there's so many moving parts of texting that there's so much room for error. And so if you're new to this, the likelihood of you messing up is extremely high. Or mail is very known. It's very binary. It's very straightforward. It's really hard to mess up mail if you know how to select markets and price the data. Yeah. And so it's pretty damn straightforward. So yeah, I like folks going through mail. The thing about mail too is it's like thinking about it as your little soldiers going out for you, doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And then the few people that do call in are actually typically decent fits. So dude, that's great. That's a really, really good start. I think you added it at the right time. I think you're at the kind of the fork in the road where it makes sense to add it.
Mm-hmm. Mike, I'm curious to know just how would you describe the process of adding texting into your business? Somebody that's interested in adding this on top of their mailers, like how would you describe just the process of getting everything set up, the additional workload that it brings on, and how to manage that or delegate that?
So again, you know me, I try and keep it like as simple as possible.
I know.
Yeah. So I did like kind of front load a lot of the work. So like in launch control, you'll create, like all your templates sent out, all of like your quick replies, because there's only like, probably 5-6 responses you're going to get every time. So when you send a text, somebody sends one of those 6 responses, I have a quick reply already made out to them. So like when I got in launch control, I did it myself for about 2 weeks to kind of like learn the platform, see what people are saying, just kind of see how it all works. I created all these like quick replies, these template text messages, so that when our new hire came in, it was just all set up for them already. So they go in, I give them like a set of data every week. They'll scrub the list, they'll put it into launch control, and then they'll just send out the initial text messages that I've already made. Those will hope maybe eventually, but right now they don't need to be changed. And then when they get a response back, it's typically the same 5 or 6 responses, and they just send a quick reply that I've already created for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So for the first 2 weeks, you're just doing it all yourself.
And I did it all myself.
What it's going to look like, and then just kind of streamline the process with those template texts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's what I recommend too. I think anytime you're embarking on something new, you got to get your hands dirty on it first. It's so hard to train someone and know if they're doing well if you've never done it. So I did the texting a month when I first started myself. Didn't get that many texts out, but I got enough of a proof of concept to see what worked and didn't work. And then you can kind of source it out to someone else at that point. I think though that the kicker is you need to have an acquisition team in place. It's just going to be so much calling and weeding through people that just aren't a good fit, that if you're doing that and everything else in your business, you're going to just be wasting money, really, So I think that's kind of the the must have. So Colton, I'm curious, man, you were in the Bay Area, back in San Francisco area, snowboarded up in Lake Tahoe for a few weeks. Did your business fall apart in the process? What did that look like?
No. I mean, still working through. Working for the most part. I think anytime you're traveling, we did this for quite a while. My fiance and I, we traveled around the entire year of 2021 while working. So, we're getting pretty used to it now. But just, it depends on the situation. I think, up in the Bay Area and stuff, I had pretty consistent work weeks. Up in Tahoe, and if you're on an actual vacation like that, then you just try and time block things out. It definitely cuts down to just focusing on the priorities and not really doing a bunch of maybe the extra legwork that you would do in a typical work week. But I think it's great with the land business. There is so much that you can delegate once you have any sort of a team built up, that you can really navigate around traveling and not having a typical work schedule, as long as you just kind of organize your days accordingly.
Yeah. So during that period, your time blocking, were you just working in the mornings, getting up early to work? Were you taking calls on the ski lift? What did that look like? Obviously, you're probably just focused more on the reactive work, less on kind of more visionary stuff. But were you just really deliberate with carving out time for it, or would you just kind of take it when it came?
Yeah, it would usually be, blocking out a couple hours in the morning and just knock out what needs to be done, and then head out to the slopes and get out and snowboarding for the rest of the day. We, I wasn't taking calls on the chairlifts or anything like that, but that has happened in the past.
Yeah.
Closed a couple deals on the chairlift last year or the year before. It's pretty funny. And that's always just a good feeling to have. Yeah,
I remember not this December, last December 2021. I was snowboarding, same thing, pull into the lodge, sell a deal real quick, go back out there. That's always a kind of a cool experience. And what's neat about the land business is that we're leveraging something that already has demand, like land, right? And so this business is really, you buy it at a discount, so you got to do some marketing and some acquisitions to do that, and then it's kind of like an internet marketing play to get people to see your listings, but you're never having to convince people as to why they should buy a piece of land, right?
Exactly.
When we look at that versus, let's say, landinvestor.co and the coaching side of things, when it's a newer concept that people might not be familiar with, there's a lot more kind of guiding, nurturing, hand-holding that goes into it. Where this business, that's why you could plug into it in 60, 90, 120 days in, be already be doing deals. It's pretty uncommon for any other business. And so I think that really lends well to having it's a cool lifestyle business in that sense, because it's pretty hands-off once you have everything set up. Even if you're running solo or with a very small team, back in the day when I had myself and one VA, same story, right? I would travel around. Probably traveled more then than I do now, and would just kind of take things on the fly. And it really does lend well to that. I'm going to touch on some acquisition manager stuff, and we're going to just kind of end this off with some 2023 goal planning for all of us. Now, what I want to touch on is you guys have heard me talk a lot about acquisition managers here and why I think they're important and blah, 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 blah. And just a little bit of backstory. back in the day, I used to have such a different view on it, right? I thought everything came down to having a sales team to sell your properties. I banged that drum so hard, and I was like, this is the only way. And I joined a mastermind. If you guys are familiar with Clint Turner, I joined his mastermind, and they were like preaching acquisition managers. And I was still like, no, this isn't it. You guys are wrong. And so I brought on a disposition manager first, and, it helped, but we didn't get like that, like boom, kind of explosion. And after trying and failing and learning the hard way, I finally brought one on. It started to see the light, right? And now a lot of folks inside that mastermind and really just in the industry, I think there's kind of like this tendency to think that acquisition managers have to be here in the US because you're speaking with sellers that are here in the US, right? And I didn't really love that idea. So I started hiring overseas. And you guys have heard me talk about this. I think there's a lot of merit for what you can get when hiring overseas, right? Like we see acquisition managers on our team at $10 to $12 an hour, and they are 70 to 80% as good as someone here in the US in a lot of ways. And like usually their tonality is fine. They're good on the phones. They're smooth. They have very little accent. Now, what I've seen after doing this for a few years, and I'm going to talk to you guys about the good and the bad of it, right? Now, when you're first starting out, to have someone on your team at $35,000, $40,000 a year, maxed out with comp plan and everything, that's a huge value add, right? Because that person can bring in a lot of revenue to your business, like 7 figures and beyond. Now, what I've seen is the drawback there, and the last 2 weeks is a really good reminder of that, is that most of these people turn over at a pretty high clip. Higher than most are prepared for, right? Like when I look at how many people I've hired in my business we've had one US person thus far, the rest have been overseas. Maybe 1 out of 10 really stick around for years. A lot of them turn over in the first year or two. And what I've seen is if you're playing the acquisition manager game and you have people that are overseas, it's wise to either have a contingency plan and have 2 of them on your team as a fail safe. Maybe you could have them each working part-time or something like that, just so you ensure that you always have coverage, or just being really mindful of you're playing in a game that is rigged to have these people leave. And so having just a lot of candidates always lined up and always be training people. So there's definitely merits to doing this on a budget and getting someone in on your team when you're maybe running a little bit more lean and you can't swing to have a big salary. But the trouble is you got to really be prepared for it because these people do turn over. So as we're moving into 2023, we're still going to be leveraging overseas talent for acquisition managers, but we're going to be also bringing someone here in the US. And that's a whole different can of worms. It's a lot more expensive. I think as we're doing bigger projects and going after bigger deals, that additional 30 or 20% skill level can go a long way. So yeah, just kind of an interesting experience for anyone who's in the world of hiring acquisition managers. Just something to be prepared for. Like there's always a pro and a con to every decision we make in our business. And there's definitely a lot of pros for hiring overseas. But as I've really had affirmed in the last few weeks, there are cons. These people do have their slippage and they do turn over. So just to be prepared for that.
Sumner, I've got a question for you in that regard. So you've mentioned several times that, just to be prepared for somebody to drop off or to lose one of the hires that you bring on, especially if it's overseas. You mentioned having like a pipeline of potential hires lined up at all times so you have a backup. What does that look like though? So if you're like doing, maybe you're having these initial interviews, you're in conversation with people, but you still have your acquisitions manager. What are you telling that potential hire if you're not really actually hiring at the time?
Yeah. Usually, I'm pretty open about it. Like I don't talk about it in the initial job listing. So I always have the job listings up. So we're always getting people in. And you guys have heard me talk about this, but like we have ways where we filter them out. So like we get a lot of stuff that just doesn't meet our requirement right off the jump because they didn't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps inside the listing. So we can just weed those people out pretty much immediately. And then every, 30 or 40 candidates, we get like, whoa, this person's a standout. Like they've got like a master's degree in the Philippines, or like they're like a really high quality candidate, or they used to work for another land investor. So at that point, we'll usually send over some stuff for them to work on, usually like some comping, listening to some calls, kind of going through some of our training material. And then we have them record like an audio sample of what they learned. So we make them go through some steps that aren't paid. And if we get someone that goes through that, then myself or someone on my team will have a conversation with them. We'll kind of just break down where we're at. Like, hey, probably not hiring until so-and-so date or this many months out. And a lot of these people, it's because the job that we're offering is so unbelievable, right? Like if you're in the Philippines and you're making $45K a year, I don't know what the exact conversion is, but you're making a couple $100,000 equivalent here in the US. It's a big deal, right? So a lot of these people, because they're contractors, they either have side projects when they reach out to us, they're currently employed, and they'll usually continue that employment or go work somewhere else. And some of the people that we've hired that we talked to 6 months or a year ago, we reach back out to them and they're so keen on joining us that they're willing to jump off and join full time. A lot of the people that reach out to us, they're contractors. They're not like full-time employees. So they have a lot of little things on their plate that they're doing to kind of get a full-time income. So having the full-time income, having a steady job is like relatively rare for these people. And so you definitely want to preface, hey, this is not like an immediate thing. I don't do that in the initial job listing, but once we get into interviewing them, we'll have those conversations. Now it's a lot of work, right? Like I'm always looking at resumes. I'll probably take a few calls a month. I've been training our COO to take those calls. So he started taking those calls as well. So it takes a little bit of work off my plate, but I'm not doing it with everyone, right? Like we put up a job posting for an acquisition manager. We might get 75 to 150 applicants a month. And then 10 to 15 of those are like pretty damn good. And we might have calls with a few of them that actually go through and do the tasks that we have them do. And some of those people drop off, right? Like we reach back out to them a few months later and they just don't ever get back to us. Like you do have people that just go and take on another project, but it seems to be more the minority. I don't think that same play works as well here in the US, but potentially. I'm starting to go through that process of like aggregating US based candidates and kind of keeping them in our pipeline, in our ecosystem. One of the things that we've been doing is like folks that want to work with us in our land business typically have an interest in land investing. So we plug them into the community and then we can kind of like make sure they're in our ecosystem. And that makes it a little bit easier to track them. But I don't know exactly how I would replicate that here in the US. But for the overseas folks, just based on like how hodgepodge their work environment is and what they're doing, they're usually looking for something full time, and that's pretty rare for them. But I think what I like more so as a strategy, if you can swing it, is having two people on your team. And maybe one of them is running the texting side and doing those calls, and one's running the mail side, or maybe they're both working part-time or what have you. What I've seen with overseas hires is, like I said earlier, they do turn over a lot. They also miss a lot of work. And like, I'm not trying to generalize, but we do hear a lot like about health problems. I don't know if that's just BS or if that's like everyone on my team has health issues, but they pull that card a lot. So we do also have, when they're working with us, they might miss 30 days a year or more, just because we had a guy that missed 2 weeks ago. He missed 3 days to get diarrhea. It's like, okay. And what am I supposed to say to that? No, you must come in with diarrhea. Like, I mean, of course I'm going to say, yeah, take the day off. Jeez.
Yeah, we get the health problems a lot too.
Dude, I know. And we've hired at this point, 2 or 3 dozen people. They're not all on our team currently. Some people have left, but literally every person I've hired overseas, that's been an issue, except one guy. There's been one person on our team that like comes up very rarely. Like he'll have like a normal sick person cadence where he gets like the flu once a year. And even then he's like, I want to still do a half day. But these folks is like, my grandpa's dying, my grandma's this, I got this, I got to do this, I'm in the hospital. Last year in 2022, we lost like 4 candidates that said they had to leave because of health issues. And so maybe I'm just ignorant to the fact that a lot of people suffer from health issues, or it's kind of like a bait and switch thing. What we saw is our last acquisition manager that left 2 weeks ago, it was all chalked up to health things, health this, health that. But the day she put in her resume, she already had a new job. So I'm like, was it really health things, or are you just working a different job simultaneously? I don't know. Weird stuff. But, again, like, it doesn't matter if it's here in the US or overseas, like you still got to be sensitive to that stuff. So I can't just be like, put my foot down and say no.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get a lot of help things and a lot of, I don't know if you get this, Sumner, but a lot of like power issues. Now I get it.
Yeah.
They're in the Philippines, so the weather's
That's
really
real.
bad, but a lot of power issues where it's just like power's down for the day. Or I'll ask something and I'll just be kind of like ghosted for the day. And then I'll get a response the next day, like power's down. What am I going to say? You're a liar?
So, yeah. So, I mean, the Philippines, obviously monsoon, tsunamis, hurricanes, like they have insane weather and they have a very sensitive power grid. So I think that's pretty honest. And we see that too with folks that are in other countries as well. I think just like in poorer countries, power grids are more sensitive. That makes a little more sense to me. One of the things that we test for when someone's going to join our team is testing their internet connection, because we either get power outages or we get my internet doesn't work and just goes out. We also like to see if they have a generator, which is like such a weird thing to qualify for, but it's important because like in the Philippines, power goes out a lot, a ton. And I will go and look at the storms. I'm like, well, there is like a huge monsoon hitting them or whatever. So I usually think it's pretty accurate. But yeah, power outages and health, very, very consistent. So let's talk about 2023 goals. Let's talk about what we're shooting for. If you guys have been in here for any time, I like kind of like defining outcomes and what we're looking to do. So Mike, I'll let you lead us off here. What does a good year look like for 2023 for you?
Yeah, on like a micro level, it'll be 10,000 mailers sent out and then maxing on texting every month. So it'll be 10,000 texts, 10,000 mailers. Okay. Towards the end of the year, I don't know. Well, no, I should hit that every month. So yeah, 10,000 mailers, 10,000 texts every month. On like a financial goal, we'd like to net 7 figures this year. So I think by mailing 10,000 and texting 10,000, I don't see why we couldn't get there. Yeah. That and combined with kind of going a little bit more, we're already up market, I guess, to like your average land investor that's in like the small dollar deals, but going a little bit more up market from that. Like right now, we're in kind of the buy of like 15 to 35, maybe 40 is like where our bread and butter is. So going, maybe one step above that, going up, closer to pushing 6 figures on the buy side. I don't see why we couldn't, hit all of our goals this year doing that. So yeah, on like a very general scale, that's kind of where our goals are this year.
And do you have I think this is an important thing to touch on that gets often missed. I mean, do you have like personal goals as they relate to the land business? Like, hey, I'm trying to work less, or I know you've talked about wanting to buy a business. Like, you have aspirations that are related to the land business, but not directly, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Funny. I would actually like to work more. So I think right now I never work, so I think I need to work more. So I do know my workload will go up. I want it to go up, and then I'll probably hire before it comes back down. So that's kind of, I'm assuming what, it'll kind of look like, how it'll transform. I would like to buy a business by the end of the year. I don't really know what that looks like yet, but yeah, I would just kind of like to have another. And I think this goes back to me having, like, I just don't work that much. So it'd be like, something else to do during the day. I should go buy another business. But no, I would like to buy another business by the end of the year. And I do need to. It's not like I want to work more, but I need to work more throughout the day. So yeah.
Yeah, dude, it's a weird problem to suffer from. I talk to a lot of folks in the program or friends that are just entrepreneurs and run totally different businesses. And you reach a certain level a few years in where you start asking like existential questions of like, what's my life about? Because you have the income that you want, and yet you work a third of what most normal people do or less. You have all this ample time, and there's almost a sense of guilt. It's called survivor's guilt. It's like a plane crashes and you're the one person that survives. That feels kind of shitty that all your friends died. And, you look around and all your friends are kind of beating their head on their desk at their corporate job, and you're on the beach at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, it's funny. I was talking to my brother, Chris Bull, who, if you're in the Discord, you've seen his name. He's a land investor as well, because we're down here in San Diego, and the Farmers Insurance Open is happening over at Torrey Pines for golf right now. And I really want to go. I don't have that much to do. It's a beautiful day out. I want to go over there and watch it. So I'm kind of like going through my list of like my golf buddies down here, and everybody's working a job. So I was like, well, I'm not going to go by myself, So it's a weird.
No, I felt that a lot. It's definitely it's a weird feeling to have, because it's when you're on the other side of it, it's what you lust for. You want it so badly, and then you get it, and you're like, huh. So, there's pros and cons to it. Dude, Papa Bowl's dry cleaning service.
I would love to, dude. There's a dry cleaner that just went for sale down the street. I would love to buy it.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Young Money Mike's taco stand.
It's funny. Our washing machine broke here.
Yeah.
And so we just needed to go to a laundromat, and the one like literally right down the street, it's on the main road. Just happened to go up for sale. So maybe. Yeah,
dude. I was looking at one in PB.
I got to do the laundry. I might as well just buy this laundromat.
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, they're interesting businesses. I mean, like, there are more investments, less businesses. Like, you can optimize them. It's like an apartment building. Like, you can do some things to optimize them, but like, you're not gonna like 10x.
It's just somewhere to like store your cash. Basically.
Yeah, they're pretty steady. You make 20% a year on your money, kind of thing. Kind of an interesting business. Well, cool, man. That's good stuff. Colton, what about you?
So for the year, I mean, just as far as like financial goals, you and I have gone through this a little bit, but I think we're going to shoot and go for like a $750K mark for net profit on the year. Still Q1 of this year is there's a lot of smaller goals in there. One, I want to get the acquisitions manager on, another generalist VA. So a couple new hires that I want to add on. Really want to just finalize and round out internal structure and, the building the team to where it feels like everybody is very confident in their role and in their own place there. So that's going to be the main focus of Q1, and then really ramping up through 2, 3, and 4. I think that it may be a little bit difficult, and we'll just see how it all plays out for the first quarter. Just, I think you and I had just spoken recently about mailers, and maybe I was going a little bit on the lower end of expectations for mail. Yeah. So I'll probably have to ramp those numbers up, and that will be starting next month. So it'll be a little bit of catch up in Q1, and we'll just see how that rolls out. But the main focus is really filling in all the gaps of what I was missing previously, and what I think the group and the coaching and everything has really helped me out with filling in the gaps. One, getting funding, so I'm not funding all these deals myself. Like fixes a million of my issues, targeting some of these larger lots, so you don't have to do quite as much volume to get to the same goals. Yeah. Working better with delegation and building out a team, so you're not just running around like a madman doing everything yourself. And then a lot too for this quarter is just building out maybe a little better routine and structure work-wise. Just having, I feel like there's a fair amount of days when it gets hectic and you sit down and there's a million different things on your plate, and every day you're trying to figure out, what should I prioritize? What do I start with? What do I need to focus on? And I think, sometimes you just need to keep it simple and just focus on the main drivers in your business, and just have a structured, organized week. You should know exactly what it is that you need to do by the time you sit down for work. And I think I've gotten off course in that regard recently. So just trying to get back on track and just get in the groove of things again.
Yeah. That's good stuff. I mean, I think that scheduling and managing time, it's like you're always iterating on it and trying to get better on it. It's funny, my goals are quite literally the inverse of both of your guys's. So first off, like in the land business, bring on a US based acquisition manager, do 4 subdivides, 2.4 million in gross profit, should be 1.92 million net. We'd like to scale up and see what happens when we get to like 30,000 mailers a month consistently, and having the team in place to kind of handle that volume. More cheaper forms of capital and new ways to get deals funded. I think we're in a pretty good place for that. I'm not going to lie, a lot of my time has been kind of split down the middle between that and the coaching and the fulfillment side of things, and the Land Investing Accelerator program. And that's been deeply fulfilling for me. It's been really, really fun. I think the land business, I've been doing it for a while now, and it's very self-serving. It's very more money in my pocket, me. The coaching side has been taking up 50% or more of my time in a lot of ways. And so I do have a lot of goals as it pertains to that, growing the community. We're on track to have the Discord over 1,000 people this year, which would be awesome. 200 folks inside the group coaching program, 100 folks full-time in the land business. Like, that's definitely monetarily not as big of an outcome as we could get from our land business, but it really tips the scales on the fulfillment side of things, which I think I was lacking for a long time. On a more personal level, I have this internal disposition, not like the selling of properties, but like an internal disposition where if there's idle time, I'll just fill that with working. And so really trying to build what I would call better work hygiene, having more boundaries there. And it's maybe like a weird place to talk about it, but exploring further why I feel like the compulsive need to always be doing something when there is idle time, and getting a little more comfortable giving myself some latitude. Like, I used to just wake up immediately and just get to work. And I've really been trying to carve out an hour or two in the morning where I read, I walk, I go to the gym, journal, like just do something to fill my cup up first, as the, pressure has risen, or there's just more going on. I feel like if I haven't made sure that I'm doing well, I show up poorly. And so really just trying to put more of a focus on that. And not so much that I'm trying to work less, but have a better relationship to work. I think work has been my vice for a long time. And so just trying to, one, understand that better and then have some boundaries around it. This year, I don't know when the heck I'm going to find the time, but I would like to open up some like longer term buy and hold investments in real estate. Who knows what the market's going to do, but if it gets worse, might not be a bad time to scoop up some long-term assets that I hold on to. And I'm not really like, has to be this apartment building or self-storage. I keep a pretty open mind to it. But some more tax benefits that I can kind of add to the books is definitely intriguing. I just don't know when I would find the time. But hopefully things free up a little bit towards the tail end of the year. And then this is a big travel year for me. I feel like the last 4 years I've really just been depositing life coins into my proverbial bank account. And now I'm trying to cash out on them and live a little bit. And so I'm going to the Philippines in March, going to meet up with a lot of my team there, backpacking Europe in September, and then trying to do some stuff in between. So yeah, excited for that. I think this does it we're running up on time here. I'm actually going to go meet Justin, who's here in San Diego. For folks that are watching that have been thinking about scheduling a call with us or what have you, back in the day, ending this week, you would have gotten on a call with me. It's just kind of reached the point that we just can't make all the calls. I can't get in touch with everyone. So we're adding someone on the team to kind of help with the call volume. Justin's a super cool guy. So we're going to go meet up in person, catch a workout, and then record some videos as well. So anything you guys want to close this out on? Anything to plug for y'all before we hop off here?
I don't think so. No.
All right. Easy peasy. Well, hey,
we'll see you boys tonight.
That's right. Yes. I'm having my going away party here in San Diego as I move to Las Vegas next Tuesday. If you guys enjoyed this, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. That's fine too. Drop a comment down below if you'd like. You could roast us or say something kind. And if you do like us, you want to hang out with us more, you can find us inside the Discord. We're in there all day, every day. So hope to see you guys there. Otherwise, we'll see you. Bye.
See you, fellas.
See ya.
All right. Cool, guys. That was awesome. You guys like that?
Yeah. I think it was good.
Yeah, I do like that.